Do you ever feel like your choices don't belong entirely to you? That no matter how free you think you are, an invisible script is subtly guiding your every move? I know it sounds strange, but stay with me. What if I told you that two ancient, opposing forces, determinism and existentialism, are at war over your reality, and you're caught in the crossfire? You see, the way we live our lives, the choices we make, even the things we feel deeply about, might not be as independent as they seem. Here's the kicker: whether you realize it or not, these forces don't just shape your life, they define it. And I'm not just talking about abstract philosophy. This war between determinism and existentialism explains why you keep replaying past mistakes, why you feel stuck sometimes, and most importantly, how you can break free. Let's start with determinism. It's the idea that everything, every thought, every action, every event is the result of something that came before it. Think about it: the sun rises because of gravitational laws, rivers flow because of erosion, and you're here watching this video because of a long chain of causes and effects that led you here. From the firing of neurons in your brain to the chance meeting that shaped your career, determinism says it's all connected. But here's the existential gut punch: if everything is determined, where does that leave you? Are you just a passenger in your own life, following a pre-written script? Or are you the author, scribbling your story as you go? Let's take a small example. Picture this: you're in a coffee shop, deciding whether to get a latte or a cappuccino. Easy choice, right? But if we rewind the tape of your life, you'll see it's not that simple. Your choice depends on habits you've formed, experiences you've had, and even subconscious cues like the barista's recommendation or the weather outside. It's like a domino effect, stretching all the way back to the day you first tasted coffee. Now here's a question for you: how much of that choice was really yours?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
This is where existentialism kicks in. Existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre argued that even if determinism feels true, you still have the freedom to define your own reality. Sartre would say, sure, you might have been influenced by 1,000 external factors, but in the end, you decide what they mean. It's a radical idea. Freedom isn't given to you, it's something you seize, moment by moment. Here's the paradox: determinism wants to lock you in, existentialism dares you to break out. Let me tell you a story to make this real. Imagine a man who grows up in poverty. His environment, family, society, circumstances determine much of his early life. He's told over and over, you'll never escape this. This is your fate. But then one day he decides he won't let his environment define him. He moves to a new city, starts a business, and carves out a life of meaning. Now ask yourself, was he truly free in that moment? Or was his decision just another domino in the chain, an inevitable result of his frustrations and ambitions? Here's what I want you to ponder: if determinism and existentialism both shape reality, how do we balance them? How do we take responsibility for our lives without denying the forces beyond our control? And what happens if we get the balance wrong? If the choices you make are influenced by everything that came before, how much of you is really in control? This isn't just a thought experiment, it's the core of how you live your life. Every time you make a decision, no matter how small, determinism and existentialism are pulling on opposite ends of the rope. And the strangest part, you probably don't even notice it happening. Let's make it personal. Think about the last time you made a big decision, something that felt monumental. Maybe it was choosing a career, ending a relationship, or deciding to move somewhere new. At that moment, it probably felt like freedom. But what if we rewound the tape of your life again? Would that same choice exist without the unique blend of your upbringing, culture, fears, and desires? Here's where it gets tricky. The very things that feel most you might not actually be yours. Your taste in music, shaped by the songs you were exposed to growing up. Your values, probably an echo of your parents, your peers, or the media you consume. Even your ambitions, the things you think define your individuality, might just be reflections of societal expectations. But here's where existentialism doesn't let you off the hook. Sartre argued that even if all those influences exist, you can't blame them. If you're unhappy with your life, pointing to circumstances doesn't cut it. You're still responsible for what you do next. That's the paradox. You're free, even when you feel trapped. But freedom is terrifying because it comes with no guarantees, no safety net. It's like standing at the edge of a cliff with nothing to hold on to but your own resolve. Here's an example that hits close to home. Picture someone stuck in a dead-end job. Every day they wake up feeling miserable but tell themselves they have no choice. Bills, obligations, societal pressure, it's all too much. That's determinism speaking. But existentialism, it whispers something different. You're staying because it's easier than risking the unknown. Now imagine they quit and start their own business. Did they break free? Or did their unhappiness simply become the new domino that pushed them into action? The irony is, even rebellion can follow a predictable path. What feels like a bold act of freedom might just be another link in the chain. So where does this leave us? Are we puppets or are we free? Let's dig deeper. Neuroscientists have discovered that your brain often makes decisions before you're even aware of them. Tiny electrical signals fire milliseconds before you consciously decide to do something, whether it's picking up a glass of water or saying yes to a date. This raises an uncomfortable question. If your brain decides before you do, is free will just an illusion? But don't despair just yet. Here's the twist. Even if your brain sets the stage, you still control the narrative. Think of it like this: determinism provides the raw material, but you're the editor. The events of your life may be shaped by external forces, but the meaning you give them? That's entirely up to you. A bad childhood doesn't have to mean a bad future. A failed relationship doesn't have to define your worth. The past isn't destiny, it's raw clay. And this brings us to the real problem. Most of us don't edit the script of our lives. We play it as it's handed to us, stuck in patterns we didn't choose but rarely challenge. Have you ever caught yourself saying, "That's just who I am"? That's the voice of determinism, tricking you into thinking change isn't possible. But existentialism doesn't care about just who you are. It asks, who do you want to become? And that's where things get uncomfortable. It's much easier to blame the world for your circumstances than to take responsibility for them. Responsibility means effort. It means failure. It means owning the fact that your life, as it stands right now, is a reflection of the choices you've made or avoided making. There's an old metaphor that ties this together. Imagine you're a sailor navigating a vast, unpredictable sea. Determinism is the wind. It pushes you in certain directions, often without your consent. Existentialism is the rudder. It's how you steer, even when the wind fights you. The wind is powerful, but the rudder, that's where the magic happens. It doesn't guarantee smooth sailing, but it's the only thing that keeps you from drifting aimlessly. And here's the catch: you don't get to choose the wind. You only get to choose how you respond to it. Some people curse the storm. Others adjust their sails. Let's make this practical. Think of a decision you've been avoiding, something you've been putting off because it feels too overwhelming. What's stopping you? Is it fear of failure? Fear of judgment? Or is it just inertia, the pull of everything that's come before? Now think about this. What would your life look like if you chose differently? Not perfectly, just differently. This is where determinism and existentialism collide. Determinism gives you the reasons to stay stuck. Existentialism dares you to act anyway, knowing the outcome is uncertain. And that's what makes freedom so hard. It doesn't promise success. It just offers the chance to try. Here's the most unsettling truth: nobody else can do this for you. Nobody else can decide what your life means or what you'll stand for. That's the weight of freedom. It's why so many people cling to determinism. It's easier to believe you're a passenger than to admit you're the driver. But deep down, you know the truth. You've always known it. And the question isn't whether you're free, it's whether you'll do something with that freedom. Freedom sounds like a gift, but let's not romanticize it. It's a burden. A heavy, unrelenting weight that most of us spend our lives trying to avoid. Think about it. If you're truly free, every success, every failure, every missed opportunity comes back to one thing: you. There's no blaming fate, no hiding behind circumstances. And that's terrifying. But here's the twist: even if freedom feels like a burden, it's also the most profound thing you'll ever experience. Why? Because it forces you to confront the truth about your life. Not the version you tell other people, not the version you tell yourself, the real one. Let's get real for a second. Why do most people avoid making big changes? Why do they stay in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, or routines that feel hollow? It's not because they're lazy or content. It's because freedom demands something they're not ready to give: accountability. If you decide to change your life and fail, there's no one else to blame. The safety net of determinism, the idea that life just happens to you, gets ripped away. And that's enough to keep most people stuck forever. But let's flip the script. What happens when you embrace that weight? When you stop running from freedom and start using it? It's not about achieving perfection. It's about something much simpler and harder. It's about deciding here and now what kind of person you're going to be, regardless of what the world throws at you. Here's a thought experiment to chew on. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and every excuse you've ever made vanishes. No more blaming your childhood, your circumstances, or your fears. The only thing left is the question, what now? That's the essence of freedom. It's not a blank check to do whatever you want. It's the realization that no one else is coming to save you. If your life is a train, you're the conductor. You can change tracks, slow down, speed up, or even derail completely. But every decision or indecision is yours. Now, let's talk about responsibility, because it's the flip side of freedom. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche had a brutal way of putting this. He believed that true freedom meant embracing the eternal return, the idea that you'd have to live your life over and over, exactly as it is, for eternity. Every choice, every regret, every triumph. Would you accept that? Would you celebrate your life as it is, knowing you'd have to relive it endlessly? Here's the punchline: if your answer is no, what are you doing about it? Freedom means owning the fact that your life is what you make it. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. But let's not pretend this is easy. Responsibility is a mountain, and climbing it means confronting things you'd rather avoid. It means admitting that some of the pain in your life is self-inflicted. It means acknowledging that the dreams you keep putting off might never happen unless you change. That's not a comfortable truth, but it's a necessary one. Here's the good news: responsibility isn't about blaming yourself for everything that's gone wrong. It's about giving yourself permission to do things differently. It's about realizing that even if the wind is against you, you still have the power to steer. Here's a real-life example. Imagine two people facing the same setback. Let's say they both lose their jobs. One person blames the economy, their boss, or bad luck. The other person asks, "What can I do now?" The first person waits for someone else to fix their life. The second person gets to work, even if it's messy and imperfect. The difference: one chooses to let determinism dictate their future. The other uses existentialism to take control. Which one are you? Let's bring this home. You're here listening to this because part of you knows that your life could be more than it is right now. Not in some vague, motivational way, but in a real, tangible sense. You know there's more you could be doing, more you could be risking, more you could be fighting for. And that's not an accusation, it's a call to action. The world isn't going to stop throwing obstacles in your path. The wind will always blow and the sea will always rage. But the rudder, that's yours. Freedom isn't the absence of struggle. It's the ability to choose how you respond to it. And that choice is what defines you, not your circumstances, not your past, not even your fears. Here's the final question, and it's not rhetorical. If you had to live your life exactly as it is, over and over for eternity, would you be proud of it? If the answer is no, what's stopping you from changing it? Not tomorrow, not someday. Now. Freedom isn't what you think it is. It's not easy, it's not comfortable, and it doesn't come with guarantees. But it's yours. And the only question left is, what are you going to do with it?